Let's turn this large horse chestnut burl into something very cool. Using my trusted sub 5 minutes epoxy resin to secure this onto my vase block. It is fast, it is efficient, and it rarely fails. But before we put this on the lathe, let's trim all those sharp corners. And this was pretty much maxing out my bend saw cutting capacity. But look at all those figuring in the wood. And this is why I absolutely love working with any kind of burls. They just a different level. So the idea behind this project, I somehow wanted to retain this live edge. And I have done similar projects where the live edge was on the outside of the project. But in this case, I wanted the live edge to remain on the inside of the project. But to do so, obviously I will need to cut this in some epoxy resin. But before I can do that, I need to turn this nice and round to the right size so it will fit into my designated mold. It was definitely very much off balance, but luckily I have a big beefy lathe and it handled this piece just fine. But just to be on the safe side, I'm not turning this piece very fast, running the lathe above 400 RPM. And when you turn on a lower RPM, you usually get a lot more tear outs in the woods, especially if your wood is a little bit on the softer side. And definitely this horse chestnut was a little bit punky and it caused some tear outs that we're gonna take care of once it's all casted in resin. Once I reach the desired size, I can then move on and cleaning off some of the loose pieces, including some of the bark inclusions and anything that potentially could weaken the bond between the wood and resin. And this extra step will help to increase the longevity of this project, since wood will continue to react to different seasons, to different moisture, humidity around the air. And we want that bond between resin and wood to be as strong as possible so it can cope with all those elements. Once it is all clean, ready to come off from the lathe and ready to go inside our mold. And I'm only using some cheap grey soil or water or ducting pipe, whatever we want to call it, but works extremely well. And we already have a round shape, so eventually when I will put this back on the lathe, it will be nice and easy to turn. Time to mix up some epoxy resin. I do like to use this little sparkly pigment. It just creates a really nice effect in the end project. But a lot of people mistakenly think these are tiny air bubbles in the end project. And since I always use my pressure pots, it's very less likely I can end up with any air bubbles in my project. So they normally see all those little sparkly pigments in my projects and they associate that's probably air bubbles. But no, yeah, you see a lot of air bubbles in this shot. However, once it all comes out of the pressure pots, there will be no air bubbles. And after a few days of curing, it was ready to come out from the pressure pot, and I normally leave at least a week just to sit on the side, further hardening. Then it is ready to go on a lathe. And in this case, I haven't used any mold release, and as you can see, it pops off very easily, no effort, since we have a very nice and smooth surface on the inside of this plastic tube. Resin can't really stick to it. And then it is ready to go back on the lathe and turn it into the desired shape. And as you can see, since we're using the initial vase block, there is very little side movements, what will make my life a lot easier. And as I mentioned this, every single time I'm using my negative rake carbide bits, what works extremely well on epoxy resin. No chip outs and cuts like butter. Look at all those nice ribbons flying off the lathe. And a little sneak peek, we are getting down to the bare wood. When you have a blank this size, this shape, there are endless possibilities in terms of how you're going to shape it and what sort of shape you want to achieve. I've done similar shapes before, and I would say probably one of my favorite shape when it comes to vases. It just has a nice curvatures and allows the live edge on the inside to be still visible. However, it does not have very sharp edges. And once I'm happy how the outside shaped, I can just move on to my negative rake scraper or skew chisel and just smooth out all those tool marks left by the negative rake scraper bit. This step will massively help when I move over to sanding, since the less tool marks I have caused by the chisel, the less sanding I need to do. However, as I mentioned before, this wood was a little bit soft, a little bit punky, and the chisel did cause some tear outs. But nothing what a little sanding can't resolve. And once I have the outside sanded all the way up to 120 grit, then I can move and work on the inside of the project. So I wanted this project to be a beautiful standalone display piece. However, I also wanted to have some sort of functionality. And to achieve that, I won't be fully hollowing the inside. This also helps to retain most of the live edge. And I only drilled a hole in the middle, which then will accommodate a nice glass tube, so can be used for dried flowers, but potentially for normal flowers as well with a bit of water. Then I can go back and continue sanding. Since it will get a clear gloss lacquer finish, I will dry sand about up to 600 grit, and then I will take over with some wet sanding and take it all the way up to 2000 grit. Then it is time to apply our finish. I normally apply a minimum of 3 coats. Then I will just assess the piece, whether it needs more coats or if I'm happy with the final finish. I usually let the lacquer to cure for a good 24-48 hours. Then it is ready to go back on the lathe to remove from the waste block. And just like that, pops off. And then I can move on to the finishing touches, drilling out the hole for my branding emblems. Move over to do some finishing sanding at the bottom. And then we are ready to brand this project as well. And if you're keen to explore my wide range of new stock which just hit my website, please head over, link down below or in the description if you wish to make a purchase, where I provide worldwide free shipping. Thank you for watching, see you back at the next one.